Hi, I want to talk to you guys today about Linux privilege escalation. So, today we're going to go through a very simple, probably the simplest Linux capture the flag challenge that you can do. After going through a couple of the machines on tryhackme.com, I gathered what was important and I wanted to deliver the information to you guys to be able to guide you on how to start capture the flag events. I would recommend looking at Lockheed Martin's Cyber Kill Chain. It's online and they provide excellent avenue to see what steps you need to do as a hacker or ethical hacker to be able to get your flag or to accomplish your mission. There are 4 different main directives or objectives that are associated with this simple capture the flag. First, recon or reconnaissance. So the challenge is assuming that you have access to a Linux machine. So we're not looking at network penetration techniques. We've already gone past enumeration and we've already gone past scanning. Now we're on the system. And so once we're on the system, we need to know where the flag is or how to get root. So in this scenario, within Linux machines, there are 2 files that are of interest. The first file is the password file. That's where all user and services are stored. So each line corresponds to a user or to a service. The first line is usually associated with root because it's has a user ID of 0. And so there are a couple different fields associated with each line that are associated with each user or service, but the main one we're concerned about is going to be the second field. So this field either can have a bunch of random letters and numbers, or it can have an X. And so if it has an X, then the information is actually stored in a separate file. But if it has information there, then that is the password. So after figuring out what the right direction is to go, you determine that since there's an X, you need to go to the shadow file within the XC directory. Once you go there, you realize that once again, it's broken down into users and services. And each line delivers you information on whether you have a user or service. Once again, user ID of 0. Here in the second column again, or second field, you have the password. And so in this scenario, we're given a password that is actually hashed, and we don't know how to actually get onto root. So what we need to do is we need to take this field and we need to pass it to a couple different programs. The first program, to make it easier for our workload later on, is going to be something called hash ID. So you store this right here, this column, into a file. Let's call it hash text. This hash text is then passed to a hash ID program. And it spits out an output on what encryption or what hashing algorithm was actually used. So in this scenario, we're looking at SHA, and the hash ID will be able to determine which one it is that you then can pass to John the Ripper or Hashcat. In this scenario, we don't actually have to go through this step, but sometimes when you're given hash values that look very obscure, it makes it easier on your computer to go through this step so that you don't have to wait as long. Because if you know the hashing algorithm right away, then you can essentially skip a lot of the different cycles. So now we pass this text file to something called John the Ripper. You'll have to install that on your system, but essentially how it works is John then takes a word list I'll make this bigger for you guys so that you guys don't have to strain. Let's delete this over here. So John takes a word list and that could be stored anywhere on your system. It's up to the end user. Traditionally, it's associated with the user share word list directory. So if you were going to do that, share word list. User share wordless directory, where you then use something called rocku.txt. And this is from a data breach in 2012 or 2013, where essentially they use this to hack all the different user IDs and passwords associated with that organization. And that's now open source so that people can use it on their penetration tests. And so what happens is you need to provide it also the text file associated with the hash value that we're looking at. And John the Ripper will then give you your answer. And so it'll split out the password. Let's say it's password 1, 2, 3. In this scenario, you can then log on to root and you've rooted the system.